Hi everybody, I'm Zilla Blitz and welcome to the July 2024 edition of Upcoming Wargames. This is a video series where we talk about upcoming tabletop wargames in various states of production and release from board game production companies across the planet. We've got a big lineup today of almost 15 games to talk about. We'll jump into that momentarily, but a couple of brief announcements first. As always, Upcoming Wargames is sponsored by Noble Knight Games, who's a fine games retailer in Wisconsin. They sell board games new and used, war games, miniature supplies, all kinds of board gaming supplies, and they ship to pretty much every country across the planet. One of the things I like about them that I just used before I started making this episode, if you're looking for a game on their site and they don't have something in stock, you can click notify me when it gets back in stock. I've been waiting for the Clockwork expansion, which is the Solitaire expansion to Root. Not war game related, but it's Noble Knight Games related, so forgive me for a moment. But I finally got an email today. It was in stock. I went in, checked the price. It was a good price, jumped on it and ordered it, and now it's on its way. So that can be a handy feature if you're looking for something that's out of print or out of supply or out of stock. But in any case, links are down below to Noble Knight Games. If you do buy something from them, thank you very much, as buying something via those links helps out the channel a lot. Thanks so much, everybody. Connected to the Noble Knight sponsorship, of course, is our $50 monthly store credit giveaway. Good anywhere in the planet, pretty much. There's a couple countries they don't ship to. Instructions on how to enter that giveaway are at the end of the video. And in a special giveaway, we'll be holding the drawing for the designer-signed edition of the Plum Island Horror, signed by Herman Lutman. We'll be drawing that at the end of the video as well. And with that, let's jump right in and get started with our newly released category. Only 2 games in this category this month, but the first one we're looking at, Assault on Gallipoli by Hexasim. Now, this is designed by Russell Lauk and Kieran Oakley. This game, of course, covers the largely Australian and New Zealand assault on Gallipoli in World War I in 1915, defended largely by Turkish defenders. So it's a 2-player game, and we can look at some of the artwork on the counters here. Looks really spectacular. Some of the games that I like from Hexasim, 2 of my favorite are Liberty Roads and Victory Roads. Really fun games that they've put out, and I've been impressed with the quality of their artwork and design and execution on games too. Really nice counters. These are battalion and company level, so it's about 100 men to a counter. Each turn represents 1 day, and as we slide down here, this is an area movement game. I think we can make these a little bit larger if we click on them. Yep, there we go. So really nice map. I mean, you're going uphill here as the Anzac forces. We can slide through here and see a little bit more. Here's some close-up on some of the areas and things. So this looks like, it looks like a fun game. I also say here we have some cards here too. This seems to me, the description seems to sound it out as a card-assisted type of game. You do have action cards, and playing them well to kind of help and reinforce your actions is key. But I'm not sure it's 100% a kind of a card-driven game. I might be mistaken on that, but I'll know more as we get a chance to take a look at it. And here we have some more here. Like the artwork on it, so barbed wire and other things too. We got heroic act, courage under fire. I mean, this looks like a fun game. It's mounted map, 4 counter sheets, 2 scenario booklets. I'm not sure if there's 2 scenarios, but there's 2 scenario booklets. A deck of action cards, a deck of close combat cards, some 10-sided dice, and some wooden cubes inside too, in addition to a couple of other miscellaneous elements too, rule book and things like that. But this one looks like a fun one. We'll be taking a look at this one. It should arrive sometime in the next month or so. So there'll be a deep dive first look and overview video of this coming up on the channel at some point soon. Now, our next upcoming war game, hold on. It's actually not a tabletop war game. It's a PC war game, strategy game type of thing. Don't vanish, though, if you are a Hex Encounters war game player, because if you're at all inclined to try PC war games, Hex Encounters turn-based war games, and you have an inclination towards kind of medieval fantasy type of environments, you might want to check out Kingdom, Dungeon, and Hero. I put up a 45-minute or so overview on the channel a couple of days ago. This is a game that's really got kind of 3 elements to it. One is kind of kingdom development, where you're kind of building up your economy and your towns and your cities and adding buildings like harvesters and mines and all these kinds of fun things there too. And then you also have teams of heroes and individual heroes that you're trying to level out and send them on kind of dungeon adventures where they're going to pull out magic items that they can use in combat, because the third element of the game is a conquest element. Now, the game is a lot more integration and moving pieces than I've just described here. If you are interested in this one, I encourage you to check out not only the Steam page here where you can see all kinds of stuff, but the video that I put up a couple of days ago showing some gameplay and talking through in depth some of the systems. Again, Not a tabletop war game. It's not something we usually would mention on this episode, but I think there's a big overlap between tabletop war games, tabletop board games, and this particular game. So I wanted to include it in this episode. Just released on July 1st, which was yesterday as I'm making this, by Kraken Studios. So go check it out if you're interested. Let's slide over to our last call category. This is Air and Armor Wurzburg, Operational Armored Warfare in Europe, Designer Signature Edition from Compass Games. This game has just gone through that Kickstarter period. It's still on a slight discount, even though it says fully available now. So I think this one almost could be kind of in that newly released category, last call for discount type of thing. This simulates a company-level combat, hypothetical World War III, Soviet Union versus versus NATO forces in Germany in 1985, 1986, mid-1980s kind of thing. Now, unlike some of the number of games that have come out in this category in the past half year or so, this game's a little bit different in that this is a reimagined and reworked version of the original Air and Armor from West End Games in 1986. And as we can see, they're not kidding when they say reworked and reimagined. So if we take a look here at the map, for example, on the new version here, and then take a look at the map on the older version, the original version, look up here. Yeah, that's quite a bit of difference. I mean, it's actually a pretty cool map too, but wow, yeah, this one has been completely reimagined and reworked for this. And it even stands out more if we click out of this and we click on, for example, the counter sheet here. Let's pop this open. I mean, it's a beautiful counter sheet. I mean, the graphics are great. We've got the air units and everything like that. And if we check that and compare it to one of the counter sheets from the original game, yeah, things have advanced a lot in nearly 40 years. So just a beautiful recreation here of the original game, which does get high marks on Board Game Geek. Now, this is the rule book here too. One thing to just be aware of here, this is a pretty big lift. There's over 148 pages of rules content in this game. Now, having said that, there's a ton of examples of play, kind of details and artwork in here too, and graphics to help the learning experience. So this rule book, to me, I mean, I don't know the original rule book, but this rule book feels like it's been really completely reworked to make the learning quite a bit easier. So as we can see, just lots of graphics in here. And as you get farther into it, there's a lot of examples of play, kind of fleshing things out. Example of unit assembly and stuff like that. We've got a beautiful example of play in here, Sue. So, I think these Cold War level games tend to start to get fairly complex when you got missiles and air units and helicopters flying around and stuff like that. So it's always nice to have a lot of elaboration in terms of what the rules concepts are. So a big meaty game on air and armored combat in World War III in Europe. Air and Armor Wurzburg from Compass Games on new release, just out now, still at a slight discount. Sticking with our last call category and sticking with Compass Games, we have Flanks of Gettysburg, which is two-player games, one covering the Battle of Little Round Top and one covering the Battle of Culp's Hill at Gettysburg. Coincidentally, it's July 2nd as I'm making this video, and both of these battles were fought on July 2nd, 1863. Now, these games are designed by John Paniski, but I wanted to show you the Compass Games page here because of the map artwork. These are Rick Barber maps, which are just spectacular. No idea where they came from. This must be the Little Round Top one here, perhaps, with the Little Round Top on the top right there. So we've got two Rick Barber maps, two separate games. And if we look over here on the Kickstarter page, we can get another look at the counter artwork here, which looks really good, high quality counter artwork. Now, it's a chit pull system. And again, if you're playing the Solitaire, you're going to be playing both players going back and forth. Looks like a relatively low complexity game, low to medium complexity game, and a basic kind of lot of action on two of these classic battles as part of Gettysburg. Now, interestingly enough, in the Solitaire rating, this on the Kickstarter page here, it says high, and then on the regular Compass Games site, it says medium. So I'm not quite sure how that all sorts out, but I do get a sense if you're playing this, you're going to be playing both sides. It doesn't seem to be a dedicated solo mode as mentioned in here at all. So there you go. Flanks of Gettysburg from Compass Games, designed by John Paniski, available at its pre-order discount for a little while longer before it goes out into the world. And still sticking around on the last call category and still sticking with Compass Games. They've been busy. We have three here, a lot of stuff going on. We have one more game from them that just finished its Kickstarter that's on kind of imminent release, still available at a discount price. Zeppelin Raider Imperial German Navy Airships, second printing. Now, this is not a brand new game. This is a second printing, but it has been quite a while coming. And I know a lot of people have mentioned this on the channel as I've done games in this Gregory Smith Solitaire type category of game, which this definitely is. But instead of a submarine like in The Hunters or Raiders of the Deep, like a World War I U-boat and stuff like that, now you're in charge of bombing missions with Zeppelins in World War I over England. And this looks pretty cool. I saw Stuka Joe did a great playthrough of it. I'll put a link down below to that kind of shows a lot of the gameplay in this. And that's what really got me looking forward to this one. And it was out of print at that point in time. So I'm excited that it's coming back into print. Artwork and graphics on this really, just really top notch. And as I watched Stuka Joe's playthrough on this, he was talking about all of the different challenges that these pilots faced and these crews faced as they're trying to just find stuff to bomb. And then if it rained, it made a complete difference on their kind of how they could maneuver and how long they could stay in the air and the altitude they could stay at. One of the key things of these, one of the defining hallmarks of the Gregory Smith Solitaire series games too, is the idea that you advance throughout a whole career. You might get medals and upgrades and all kinds of things happen to you. You can get wounded and everything like that. There is also an Africa campaign here too, which I think you can get promoted into in the game, but don't quote me on that. And here's the one going over England and things like that. So just looks like a fantastic game with a lot of depth, different types of Zeppelins. These look like historical commandant cards here as well. And if we come in here too, we can see, this is the Kickstarter that just finished up, but we can see the rule book here, which is relatively modest at 24 pages with good graphics and things like this. So just a really nice developmental touch on this one. I think this is a great addition to that series. And if you're, kind of had a lot of U-boats in the Atlantic, this might be a good switch for you as you can shift into Zeppelins from the air in World War I and try a game that has similar characteristics of kind of these Gregory Smith Solitaire games here. This, by the way, is definitely, I mean, you could play it two-player cooperatively and things like that, but this is definitely a solitaire game is where it shines here too. So there you have it, Zeppelin Raider from Compass Games, imminent release and still available on slight discount. Let's shift now to Worthington Publishing for two newly released, still listed in their pre-order discount phase on Worthington Publishing. One is War of 1812 Solitaire, and I'm going to lump these both into the same category, War of 1812 Solitaire, and then switching pages, Pacific War 1942 Solitaire. These two games are very much are very similar, except there's theme and there's going to be some gameplay differences, but the vision of these two games is very similar in that they are designed as solitaire travel games. So they come in very small packages, and I just put up a video of War of 1812, a full playthrough. They're small packages. They come with like 20 counters. You're using a die. The map is like 7 inches by 14 inches. It takes like 15 minutes to play a game. And there's dice roll elements and luck involved, sure, but you've got some strategy in terms of how you're going to approach the front. But if we take a look here quickly at War of 1812, we can see the map up here where you've basically got 4 different fronts that you're trying to push forward on, trying to get to York and Montreal as the U.S. forces in the invasion of Canada and the War of 1812. So just to clarify, again, these are solitaire games that cover this particular theater, in this case of the War of 1812, not the entire war. You can see some more of the graphics here. Really nice graphics. This is one counter sheet printed on both sides. And then you use a simple 6-sided die to control the British. And you or the Americans are picking from 1 of 4 actions. Plays really fast. It's really fun. It's going to fit really nice. It fits into my pocket on my cargo pants and stuff like that. And there's a full video replay up on the channel of this one. And then Pacific War is its brother game, if you would. Now this looks like similar. You've got 4 different fronts that you're pushing forward to, as we can see on this map, trying to get to Japan to end the war. I think there are differences in terms of mechanics and things happen, but you can see that this is, thematically there's a difference and probably some of the mechanics are different, but the vision is still very much the same. Solitaire game, 15 to 20 minutes, you're trying to conquer Japan. This one, of course, really has the entire Pacific theater, as we can see India front, China front, Australian front, and then the Hawaii launched front as to which one we'll get to. Japan first, it would look like. And again, same kind of thing. We're going to have a 6-sided die controlling the Japanese actions, and you're going to be picking between actions that you can take as the U.S. forces. So I've really enjoyed my time with 1812. I'll be looking at this one at some point, 1942 Solitaire on the channel at some point too. Simple game. It's not trying to overstretch itself. I mean, it's a type of game you can play and relax in 15 minutes when you got a short break and have some fun with. It tells a neat story as it goes through too. So there you have it, War of 1812 and Pacific War 1942, both Solitaire travel games from Worthington Publishing, available still at their pre-order discounts. Let's stick with Worthington Publishing for just a moment and talk about one of their Kickstarters that just recently ended. However, it still is available at a discount price on late pledge. Talking about 1 Hour World War II. Now, I don't know a lot about this game other than what's on the Kickstarter page, but it is quite intriguing. This game looks like it's going to ship in the latter part, the late 2024. It's a 2 to 5 player game where you play the entirety of World War II in, as behind my head, you can see 1 hour. So if we look at it here, we can look at the map here. It's kind of a point-to-point map. It does make references to say, like, if you like Twilight Struggle, you'll like this game. Or if you like Axis and Allies, you might like this game. Looks like it's aiming for moderate complexity, low-mid complexity. But there are a number of actions here. And then these are the 5-player mats. So it looks like you can control either United Kingdom, Japan, Germany, USA, or Soviet Union. So I assume with a 2-player game, you probably can't beat Germany and Japan. You'd probably have to mix up Axis against Allies and things like that. And maybe this shines best as 5-player. I'm not really sure. But looking at the actions in here too, which I was curious about, under the German mat, which we can see kind of behind me here, looks like in a turn, the Germans are going to be able to do things like build or go on an offensive or make a strategic move or upgrade a cube to a different level, strategic bombing, iron ore tray, counteroffensive, not one step back, blitz, strategic bombing, blitz, or code breaking. So you're picking from kind of this menu of actions each turn, trying to figure out where you want to spend the best amount of your energy here. And then it does look like it has units as well. Here's our rather kind of, looks like strength point on these units and kind of war bonds. You got Monty, Yamamoto, some names back in there perhaps some characteristics that are unique to each one of those nations. Germany has V2 rockets, for example. But I mean, the concept sounds pretty cool. 2 to 5 players play the entirety of World War II in an hour. That's a pretty ambitious goal right there. I mean, sometimes I find games like that could be a little bit shallow, perhaps might be the right word for it. But as I read through these descriptions here, oh, right, I wanted to show you one other thing too. Here's the rules too. And this is what led me to think that doesn't really fall into that category of too shallow for something I'd like. Keep in mind too, these are prototype rules. We can see a lot of markers where they're going to add images and things like that. But it's a pretty decent mid-level rule set here. I mean, I'm scrolling through it here without images and graphics and examples and things like that. We go up to about 12 pages. I mean, these are kind of historical materials, designer's notes and things like that. But 10 pages of rules with graphics and art and stuff like that's probably going to go up to about 15 to 20 pages of rules in all as they kind of flesh these out with the cover and an index and things like that too. So it does look like kind of a mid-level game that's going to have a pretty good amount of intrigue and interest and kind of depth to it. So very curious about this one. 1 Hour World War II from Worthington Publishing, still available at its discount price as it heads towards production for the end of the year. Continuing right along, I want to try to see how long I can go with upcoming war games and finding a company I've never featured on these episodes before. Found one for this episode, Dissimula, which is an Italian wargaming company, and they have this game, Sicilia 1943, Operation Husky, up on pre-order, so it qualifies as an upcoming war game. Now, I don't know anything about their other games in terms of quality of play, quality of production, and things like that, so I'm going by what I can see here, but I like the looks of this one quite a bit. I mean, this counter art looks really sharp and fresh and a lot going on. I mean, it looks like they've got, so you've got your basic features here, probably attack, defense, movement, maybe, or something like that. But then you've got the red in the back and the yellow in the back. So looks like it's going to be quite a bit going on. I can see paratroopers here, I can see aircraft. And if we look down here at this map, I'm going to pull it up on a different place here. Let's pull it up here and slide this up a little bit. This looks pretty good. I really like the looks of this. I mean, this is pretty sharp. So, this is Sicilia 1943. It says each hex is 3 kilometers across. It looks like the units are battalion level size. And they mentioned that there are 2 grand campaigns in the game. One is your historical campaign and one is a hypothetical campaign. And then a number of minor campaigns, including some landings and counterattacks and things like that. But I mean, this looks good. Map looks good. Counters looks good. we take a look here at the draft of the rules. So again, without really any graphics and things like that, we can see we've got here, there are 15 pages of rules. So once you multiply that out, you're probably looking at about 20, 25 pages of rules, maybe, with all the graphics and examples of plays and things like that. Rules look, I'm going to guess medium high complexity, maybe 5.5 for complexity for this, but a lot of good indications. Now, I've not played anything else from them, and I don't know about their quality. I'm curious if anybody out there owns some of their games and has played some of their games, and if knows a little bit more on this. But 4 standard maps, 2 small maps, 4 counter sheets. So it looks like it's going to be somewhat of a larger game, and certainly with this map, with the 4 maps butted together to get the big campaign here, this looks like kind of Sicily on a grand scale. So looks like a lot of fun. Looking forward to this one. Sicily 1943 on pre-order from Dissimula. Let's jump over now to GMT Games for 2 of their games that are new in the P500 system. Our first that we're going to take a look at is Purgatorio. I'm excited about this one. Men of Iron Series Volume number 6. I already have the first 5. This is a fantastic 2-player system of medieval combat, and Purgatorio takes us down to Italy between 1176 and 1325, featuring battles between the Italian city-states, the Guelphs and the Ghibellines. And the Guelphs supported city-states that were loyal to the Pope, and then the Ghibellines supported ones that were loyal to the Holy Roman Empire. And this conflict and these conflicts spanned almost 200 years in Italian history. This game covers 7 of those scenarios, including the famous Battle of Zeppelin, which was War of the Bucket. Not really, but kind of, apparently. This is a fantastic series. The other thing I would say about this, if you haven't played it yet, I would try one of the other games rather than waiting for this one if you haven't played it yet. But I'm excited to see this one get continued support and development. One of the other reasons why I like this series, I think this is one of my favorite pure two-player games to play solitaire, playing each side. I think the system works really, really well with the chit pulls and the swinging kind of leadership calls and who's going to take the initiative in different turns and things like that. Just presents a lot of challenges, I think, for the solitaire player, and it works so smoothly as a solitaire game experience in addition to a 2-player experience. There are 6 maps in this one, 3 counter sheets. And again, the nice thing about it is that once you know one game in the series, it's relatively straightforward to pick up the next game in the series because you know the core rules already. So just fantastic to see this series going on. It's great to see them coming out at a reasonably good pace too. This one has about 440 orders as I'm looking at it now, so it still needs a little bit of room to go before it gets to 500, but certainly seems like it's well on its way to a successful P500 campaign. And I couldn't be more excited to see this one become a reality and to see the series continue. So Purgatorio, Men of Iron, Volume 6. Sticking with GMT Games for their second new addition to P500, we have Thunder on the Baltic, which is also another series game. This from Mike Nagel's series of Flying Colors. And Thunder on the Baltic, as you may imagine the name to imply, takes us to Age of Sail combat on the Scandinavian Wars at sea, 1676 to 1814. This one sounds good. Reading through this, there are 18 scenarios depicting battles between the fleets of Denmark against Sweden and the British Royal Navy against the Danes and Norwegians. Again, this is a 2-player game with a very solid solitaire rating. It's great to see this series going on. This is kind of, in my opinion, the modernized version of Wooden Ships and Iron Men. So it's great to see Age of Sail combat coming forward and sticking with this with GMT Games. It's just new on its P500. It's got about 300, a little bit over 300 orders as I'm creating this now. So it still has a ways to go, but being a series game, I think we can expect over time to see those numbers to kind of pull up. So if you haven't heard of that one yet and you like this series, Thunder on the Baltic is the newest edition and on P500. I'm not quite sure what category to put this one in because we just missed the crowdfunding. It just slipped by my radar. Hopefully, although I'm not sure how Dan Burson approaches this, there might be a late pledge campaign for this one. I'll make note of it in future videos as we go forward. But long story short, Dan Burson Games Mustang Leader, based on Zero Leader and Stuka Leader, the latest in this kind of subgenre of leader games from George Siegert, who also designed Zero Leader and Stuka Leader. Don't let the name kind of mislead you. Mustang Leader, although the Mustangs are featured in the games, this game features a number of U.S. planes and some British planes as well. So you don't just fly Mustangs. Here we can see one of the pilot cards here. Artwork looks great. It looks like kind of further expanding and kind of providing some twists on Zero Leader and Stuka Leader. I love this. This looks just really sharp. I mean, I think one of the things about the Leader series is they spawn great narratives. They're pretty accessible, so they're fun to dig into and play. And just the campaign system with the legacy elements are just I think that's a neat game system that they've got going here. Now, as with most Leader games, there are a plethora of add-ons that you could have gotten. Pacific Theater Expansion number 1, Pacific Theater Expansion number 2, North Africa Theater Expansion, Eagle Squadron and Tuskegee Airmen Expansion, Aces Expansion, and then it met a boatload of its stretch goals as well. Curious if anyone got in on this Kickstarter, but we've got Mustang Leader from Danvers and Games, the newest addition to the Leader series coming up, and I'll try to make note if I see late pledges open up in a future video. Our next game is a hide your wallets type of game. Imperial Borders by Larry Harris. This one is quite impressive. If you're at all on a budget, hide your wallets and run away and skip to the next game. Larry Harris is the designer of War Room, which I've heard fantastic things about, especially as a large multiplayer game, and Axis and Allies. Over 1,200 backers currently as I'm creating this, with over almost $250,000 raised. 2 to 6 player game. So this is big time here. 2 to 6 player game in a post-Napoleonic setting. Basically, it asks, what if the Congress of Vienna had failed? And so you take the role of one of 6 European nations vying for control of Europe after a failed Congress of Vienna. And I mean, it's got a hefty price tag right here. So this one is $265 for the game, but wait till you see what's inside. You could add it on, go up to $500 and get War Room too. But I mean, and this is War Room here, but check out this picture of Imperial Borders. I mean, it's very much kind of a blend between Euro and War Game, it would seem, with a lot of politics and diplomacy mixed in. So this sounds just really spectacular. These pictures are so juicy. And look at this components shot here. I mean, this is just insane. Looks fantastic. It's got its own 3D render of box, but the heart of the game here, it says, establish a dominating presence of power and wealth through clever diplomacy and strategic warfare. Plotting, scheming, deal-making, and backstabbing are fundamental to winning the game. Up to 6 players control the major nations of Europe during the aftermath of war with Napoleon. Collect taxes, plot secret orders, establish turn order, on the march, attempt annexations, on parade, purchase new forces. Just a really cool kind of sequence of play here. I mean, the pedigree of the designer too is so good. This one's really kind of so tempting. And if we look here at the rule book, which actually the latest version, this is a draft of the rules. It just went up today as I'm making this. And they're quite well designed already. It's 32 pages. So it looks like it's got probably medium complexity to it. But again, tons of graphics here to help out and kind of help teach the game and move through it and things like that. So looks like such a fun game. I know War Room is not a game for the solitaire player, and I don't suspect with all of the plotting and intrigue that this is going to be a game that shines best at close to its maximum players, right? I think you'd probably 3, 4, 5, 6 players might be ideal. But if you've got that and you've got people that can sit around for its 4 to 6 hour length, this one sounds like a no-brainer despite its rather ambitious production values and cost. Let me know what you think. Has anyone jumped in on this? Imperial Borders on Kickstarter now. As I'm creating this, it's got about 2 weeks left to go, so I'll put a link down below if you want to jump on it, by Larry Harris, designer of War Room and Axis and Allies. Next game I want to talk about, I'm going to talk about briefly, but there'll be more on the channel going forward. Song for War Mediterranean Theater by Invictor X Games, designed by Chris Helm and Seth Stigliano. Now, this game may ring a bell if you've been following the channel. This had a Kickstarter about a year and a half ago that didn't quite make it. It did well, but not quite well enough to reach its goal. Chris and Seth, over the past year and a half, have been refining the game, reworking the game, tweaking the game, and also building a different approach to the Kickstarter in terms of versions of the game and smaller scenarios and smaller gameplay scenarios and things like that. So a ton of refinements and work is coming into the game, has been put into the game over the past year and a half, and I'm excited to share that there's going to be another Kickstarter, second attempt Kickstarter coming up later this year. I got a chance to play the prototype version of this game earlier on, the first version of the game. Really liked my time with it. I'm going to be spending a little bit of time with it on the channel going forward. And I just got a chance to interview Chris and Seth about a week or so ago. So there'll be an interview with them coming up later on this channel, talking a little bit about some of the changes they've made and some of the new approach to this Kickstarter coming this time around. So if you liked the game previously and backed it, you can be excited to see it's coming back to Kickstarter, and it's great to see all the work that they've put into the game to bring it back again. So attempt number 2 for Song for War Mediterranean. More coverage on the channel coming up, but I couldn't be more excited to see this one come back, rise up like from the phoenix, and to bring it back to life. Sticking with our crowdfunding team, but don't dally because this has 64 hours left to go as I'm making this, so you might be seeing it with only seconds to go in the crowdfunding campaign. Boots on the Ground Deluxe from Worthington Publishing. Now, this is a re-envisioning and a greatly enhanced version of a 2010 version of the game called by the same name, Boots on the Ground. But let's take a look a little bit what this is. So designed by Sean Cook, this puts you in the middle of the action. Each counter is an individual soldier or civilian. And the rough idea is that you control a team of specialists on particular missions. You could be going into kidnapping or bombings and destruction, all kinds of stuff, generally in an urban setting here. And your team consists of a demolitions expert, heavy weapons expert, a medic, a scout, a sniper, and you, the leader. This just says originally released in 2010 with a paper map and 1 sheet of counters. The game was great, but we knew it could even be better. All new hard-mounted game board, updated box art, updated rules, new mission options, 2 sheets of rounded counters with new counters. So complete expansion and reimagining of the original game. This is what I think is really cool about it too. It's a solo game. At heart, it's a solo game. So you're going to take the Allied forces and you'll have a card deck that's going to control the insurgents or the terrorists. And your goal is to execute your mission. And we'll take a look at those momentarily. It can also be played cooperative. It can be played 2-player head-to-head or 3-player. So, but I think the thing that really shines about me is for this game is the emphasis on solo and to be able to control an individual soldier in urban combat like this. This sounds really fun. I wanted to show, in addition to some of the components here, we got cards that drive quite a bit of play here. Here are some of the counters. These look fantastic, plus new counters. And then let's take a look here at the rules. Not very extensive here. This is a moderate rule set. I'm going to go low, medium complexity for this in terms of executing how to play. But, and the missions down here as we get down here at the bottom. So we've got 10 pages of rules, I believe. It's 8 pages of rules. Sorry, 9 pages of rules. And then we come to the missions. As we're looking at this, again, as a draft version, all these are prototype images and things. But we've got 12 different missions here. Hostage Run, Building 26. 10 insurgents are located in the windows and doors facing out of Building 26. Hot LZ. 23 insurgents are positioned at all of the windows and doors of Building 5 through and all these different buildings. All streets are clear of civilians. Jack of Clubs, Medic, Clear. Hostage Part 2, 4 Corners. These names are so evocative. Egg Hunt. All buildings have insurgents in all windows. Solitaire mission. Start an X-ray and eliminate all insurgents in any occupied building and find and secure 1 weapon of mass destruction, then return to X-ray. These missions are so cool. I'm so excited for this one. This looks like so much fun. You see it, you don't know how it's going to play, and I've not played the original 2010 game, but this one is checking off a lot of boxes for me. And again, as I'm creating this, 64 hours left in the kick, 63. It's gone down by 1 in the last 5 minutes or so. So don't dally if you want this one. It's up on Kickstarter. Link is down below. Boots on the Ground from Worthington Publishing, designed by Sean Cook. Still more. This isn't kind of a new kit. This is upcoming crowdfunding. But by the time I make the next upcoming Wargames video, this one will be done with its crowdfunding because it starts in just a couple of days. This is Stalin's favorite, Band of Brothers, also from Worthington Publishing. Now, if you're not familiar with the Band of Brothers series, it's a tactical combat series. There are 5 versions, 5 games or expansion packs in the series from Worthington Publishing. If we look at it here, we can see Old Breed. And then we've got Screaming Eagles, Ghost Panzer, Texas Arrows, and the Battle Pack #1. I've heard really good things about this tactical combat system. And this new game, the Band of Brothers Stalin's Favorites, will take the combat to the East Front between 1943 and 1945. So if you are interested and you like that series or you're interested in trying out that series, this might be a good way to jump in. Again, a standalone version of this tactical combat, 2-player combat. I don't know if it's solitaire. I don't know about its solitaire capacity yet, but you'll know more about the game and can learn more about the game. I'll put a link to this page down below, and you can subscribe to it if you want to get notified when the Kickstarter launches, because it will go through its cycle probably before I create the next upcoming Wargames edition. Hold the presses. I thought I was all done with this, but then I saw a tweet from Legion Wargames, and I had to put this in with newly released. Target for Tonight. So Target for Today and Target for Tonight are two of the best-selling, if not the best-selling games from Legion Wargames. In those games, you control a single plane over a campaign, bombing campaign in Europe, either during the day missions, of course, for Target for Today, and then Target for Tonight for the night missions. Fantastic games that really get you into the story of your plane and their crew and just moving forward through an entire campaign and things like that. Very, very well loved by people that have played them. They just announced Target for Tonight, the Italian campaign expansion, sold as a Ziploc, and it's available now on their site. So this basically allows you to go through, as the REF, to go through planned campaign objectives for the night bombing campaign against Italy, and you get to relive this as part of the game. So if you're fans of those games, this sounds like this would be a no-brainer. With it, you get an Italian campaign expansion rules booklet, some tables, a new counter sheet, a Whitney crew placement board, Whitney bomber counter sheet, a large Whitney mission log sheet. We can see some of the map graphics, which are the same for Target for Tonight. So you need the core game to play this, right? So you need Target for Tonight to play this. Here is a shot of the counter sheet and game support as well. So Target for Tonight, newly announced, newly released, just out from Legion Wargames. If you're a fan of Target for Tonight or Target for Today and you have Target for Tonight, this would be a great thing to pick up to expand your gameplay. And there we have it. We've gotten through all of our upcoming Wargames for July, but we have two things left to do. The first is to give away our designer's signed edition by Herman Lutman of the Plum Island Horror. So he's going to sign this and send it off to the winner of this game. Thanks to Herman for donating the game to this episode. And we have over 50 people that answered his questions correctly. I'm going to push the start button. Everybody's names are up above my head in the list here. Let's see who wins the copy of Herman's game. Hun644 New, congratulations. These are all people who had the answers correct. I've already checked those. You are the winner of a signed copy of Herman Lutman's The Plum Island Horror. I will reach out to you by the email you've provided just to confirm your mailing address, and I'm going to send it off to Herman. He's going to send a copy of the game out to you. Thanks to everybody who's been playing. If you didn't win this one, stick around because we've got another one coming up right now. There we have it, another half hour spent talking about upcoming war games from companies across the planet. What did you see that you liked? What did you see that you're interested in? There are a number of them in this edition that I'm excited about. But before we vanish and before we head off to our 4th of July and July events, we want to give away start our drawing for the $50 store credit to Noble Knight Games. And this time I want to do something a little bit different. Let me explain a little bit about this drawing. So I'm going to have about a 2-week vacation coming up in the middle of July that I'm going to be away from games, away from work, and away from creating content. I do have a series of interviews that I'm editing that I'm going to put up, so there'll still be videos coming out, and I'll still be reading comments and things like that, but I'll be away from gaming, traveling for a couple of weeks, just resting, relaxing, and recharging after what's been a very busy work year. So I'm really looking forward to that time, and one of the things I want to do during those 2 weeks is kind of take a step back reflection on the current state of the channel and think about where I want to put emphasis and where I want to kind of reshape and tweak things going forward for the rest of 2024 and then into 2025. And I'd like your help with that because I would like to know more about you. Particularly, what types of things do you like and what types of things do you like to watch? So I've got a series of 3, 4, 5 questions that I'd like to ask you in survey format. I do need to collect your email address so that people only enter once. And please try to answer as honestly as you can that represents your feelings, because that'll help me the most. But the questions I'd like to ask you are the following. Do you play PC war games? So I'm talking about turn-based strategy PC war games, not real-time strategy, not 3D, not first-person shooters, but PC turn-based hex encounters war games. I'd love to hear what percentage of viewers out there. I'd love to get an idea for how many people like those because I like those and I'm looking to create more content along those lines, but I'm curious as to the current state of the people watching the channel. Where are you with that type of entertainment? The second question is, do you play more solitaire or do you play more with other people? And maybe it's the same. I'll put that option in there too. But I'm curious thinking about how to refine content going forward for the channel for that part. And I'm just curious as to where people sit in that particular answer. And lastly, what is your favorite type of video on the channel? Thinking about this channel in particular, not comparing to other channels, but playthroughs. And I'll put, I think this will be 2 questions. One will be check the types that you like, that you prefer kind of thing. And then what's your favorite? So 2 questions along this line. Playthroughs, interviews, first looks, and overviews. So I think that new format that I've been trying over the past few months. Reviews, upcoming Wargames, and news episodes, kind of like this one here, tutorials. And then the last one is kind of unique series and game comparisons and stuff like that. And I would put in there kind of like we did the Bulge Off series where we compared all the Battle of the Bulge games. Of those different categories, which ones do you enjoy, more than the others kind of things? Which ones could you do without? And then the second question would be, which of those is your favorite? I'm very curious to see your answers. There are no right or wrong answers to this at all. So just put something in for the answer, fill out the answers and you'll be included in the drawing. I'll be picking this towards the end of July, right around July 27th or so. It's when I'll be back from traveling and I'll come back in and I'll be picking the winner there. I still be around for another week or so creating videos, so I'm not leaving for another week or so. But I'd love to hear your input, and you can win a chance for a $50 store credit to Noble Knight Games if you fill out the survey. Thanks as always for watching. I look forward to reading your comments to this one, and have a great happy 4th of July if you're celebrating the holiday. And if not, I hope you're enjoying your summer. Take care, everybody. Bye.